Welcome to Southwest Desert, where adventure meets the arid beauty of the American Southwest. Join us as we explore the rugged landscapes, uncover hidden historical gems, and dive deep into the rich legends and culture of this iconic region. Subscribe now and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out on our latest desert adventures. Please leave a like or comment. This is very helpful. Let's journey together into the heart of the Southwest Desert. Picture this. It's September 1858, and America is about to witness something that will change the nation forever. A single stagecoach is racing through the pitch-black wilderness of Missouri, its wheels thundering across rocky terrain as four horses pull their precious cargo toward an impossible deadline. Inside that swaying, lurching coach sits a New York Herald correspondent named Waterman L. Ormsby, frantically trying to write by candlelight while being thrown around like a rag doll. He's documenting what would become one of the most audacious undertakings in American history, the very first overland mail delivery from the eastern United States to San Francisco. This isn't just a mail run. It's a race against time, nature, and skeptics who believe the whole enterprise is doomed to fail. Welcome to the story of America's first transcontinental mail service, a journey that would prove the frontier could be conquered, that communication could span a continent, and that the American spirit of enterprise knew no bounds. On September 16, 1858, at precisely 1 minute after 6 o'clock in the evening, history began to unfold at the tiny frontier town of Tipton, Missouri. This dusty settlement, barely a few months old and home to only a few hundred souls, had become the unlikely launching point for an expedition that would make or break the reputation of the Butterfield Overland Mail Company. The scene was almost anticlimactic for such a momentous occasion. The townspeople of Tipton gathered around the magnificent new stagecoach, a vehicle that looked more suited for ferrying wealthy passengers between New York hotels than traversing the American wilderness. Yet there it stood, hitched to 6 powerful horses, while bags of mail were hastily transferred from the arriving railroad cars. John Butterfield Sr., president of the mail company, supervised every detail with nervous energy. His son, John Jr., sat confidently on the driver's box, whip in hand, eager to prove that this audacious scheme could actually work. The passengers were few but significant. Judge Wheeler and his family bound for Fort Smith, a Washington official named T.R. Corbin, and most importantly for posterity, Waterman L. Ormsby, the only passenger committed to the full journey to San Francisco. What made this moment so extraordinary wasn't just the distance they planned to cover, but the sheer impossibility of what they were attempting. The route would take them across nearly 2,800 miles of some of the most dangerous and unforgiving terrain on the continent. They would traverse the Missouri wilderness, cross raging rivers in the dead of night, navigate through hostile Indian territory, and race against a schedule that many believed was pure fantasy. What followed was a masterclass in frontier logistics and human endurance. The stagecoach immediately plunged into the Missouri wilderness, where the real test began. The roads were unlike anything Ormsby had experienced, rough, rocky paths that made riding nearly impossible and turned every mile into a bone-jarring ordeal. But the magic of the frontier quickly revealed itself. Along the way, they encountered the remarkable sight of traveling hotels, covered wagons containing entire families migrating westward. These pioneer families would make camp each night near wood, water, and grass, their campfires dotting the landscape like stars, creating scenes of domestic happiness that struck Ormsby as somehow more authentic than the comfortable but artificial life of eastern cities. The first major test came at Shackleford Station, just 7 miles out. Unlike the indifferent farewell at Tipton, here they found a warm, welcome illuminated windows, fresh horses already harnessed, and supper waiting. The station master, Mr. Shackelford, even apologized that he couldn't fire a gun salute because his weapon wouldn't discharge. It was a touching gesture that hinted at the growing excitement this venture was generating in frontier communities. As night fell, the journey became genuinely dangerous. The road to the next station was nearly all uphill, 13 miles through increasingly difficult terrain. Then they encountered their first major problem, a sick driver who didn't know the route well. In the pitch-black darkness, with only dim moonlight and nearly useless coach lamps to guide them, they had to feel their way along treacherous mountain paths. The situation became surreal when they reached the Osage River near Warsaw. At 3 in the morning, ahead of schedule despite their difficulties, they faced a river crossing that had to be done in complete darkness. A man on horseback with a lantern preceded them through the ford, and Ormsby held his breath as water rose to the wheel hubs. One wrong move would have meant disaster, wet mail bags, a stuck coach, and the end of their impossible schedule. But they made it through, water barely reaching halfway up the wheels. Then came perhaps the most remarkable feat of the entire journey, navigating 11 miles through dense forest in absolute darkness. Ormsby was astounded that the driver could find his way through what seemed like an impenetrable wilderness. They went right along about east, as young John cheerfully explained, while his father worried they would overturn at any moment. Something extraordinary was happening to Waterman Ormsby during this ordeal. He had begun the journey as a professional observer, dutifully documenting an interesting news story. But as the hours passed and the challenges mounted, he found himself becoming emotionally invested in the success of the enterprise. The turning point came as he listened to the music of the forest, the natural sounds of the wilderness combined with the rhythmic motion of the coach, moonlight struggling through the trees, and the constant enthusiasm of young John Butterfield. What had started as a routine assignment was becoming an epic adventure that captured his imagination completely. His fevered mind began conjuring up dangers from every shadow. Stories of roving Indians and frontier violence transformed every decayed tree and stunted bush into a potential threat. Yet, rather than terrifying him, these fantasies seemed to heighten his appreciation for the magnitude of what they were attempting. By the time they reached Springfield, Missouri, Ormsby had undergone a complete transformation. He found himself willing to go without dinner for the privilege of helping the mail reach its destination just 15 minutes sooner. He began jumping out at stations to help water the horses, keeping a watchful eye on the mail bags, and walking up steep hills to lighten the load. The terrible pain in his back from constant riding without sleep became secondary to his obsession with the success of the mail delivery. Springfield proved to be a revelation. This flourishing town of about 2,000 inhabitants had been the seat of the General Land Office for 25 years and represented the first major population center that truly appreciated what they were witnessing. As the stagecoach rolled into town, crowds gathered to see the first overland mail, congratulating both Butterfields on their achievement. The reception was everything Tipton's had not been. People marveled at the speed they had maintained, the fastest time ever recorded between Tipton and Springfield. Soon their arrival was honored with a ceremonial gun salute, the kind of recognition that acknowledged they were witnessing history in the making. At Springfield, they made a crucial transition from the elegant stagecoach to one of the heavy-duty wagons that would carry them the rest of the way to San Francisco. These vehicles were built like freight wagons but designed for passengers, with canvas tops and leather-strap suspension instead of springs. Most ingeniously, the 3 seats could be reclined to form a single bed capable of accommodating multiple passengers, a feature Ormsby would come to appreciate deeply. From Springfield, the journey became increasingly challenging. They faced extremely dusty, hilly, and stony roads that tested both equipment and human endurance. Yet their performance remained remarkable: 14 miles in 2 hours, 20 miles in 3 hours, 15 miles in 2 hours and 45 minutes, 17 miles in 3 hours, 18 miles in 3 hours and 20 minutes. Each segment brought new obstacles, but also new proof that the impossible schedule could be maintained. When they reached Callahan Station near the Arkansas border at breakfast time on Saturday morning, they were still ahead of schedule despite the challenging terrain. Here, they encountered another key figure in the operation, Mr. Crocker, superintendent of the line between St. Louis and Memphis. The efficiency was astounding: wagon greased, horses changed, and breakfast served in what seemed like minutes. This level of coordination across hundreds of miles of frontier territory was unprecedented in American transportation. The route through the Ozark Range represented some of the most difficult terrain they would face. These steep and rugged hills tested every aspect of their operation: the strength of the horses, the durability of the equipment, and the skill of the drivers. Yet they maintained their pace, covering the distance from Callahan's to Fayetteville in just 3 hours. Fayetteville itself was a revelation. A flourishing town of about 1,800 inhabitants nestled among the hills in what locals proudly called the Star County of Arkansas. With 2 churches, a courthouse, fine stores, and dwellings, it represented the growing prosperity of frontier communities. Most significantly, John Butterfield had purchased property there to build a hotel, showing his confidence in the route's future and his commitment to supporting the communities along the way. When they departed Fayetteville at 10 minutes to 12 on Saturday, they achieved something that seemed impossible just days before. The official schedule had required them to start at 10:15 on Sunday. They were now 22 hours and 17 minutes ahead of the Post Office Department's requirements. By the time Ormsby was writing his dispatch near Red River in Indian Territory, they had covered 670 miles, about 1/4 of their total journey, and were 35 hours ahead of schedule. The correspondent, who had started as a skeptical observer, had become a true believer, admitting he had begun to view the mailbags and horses with the same fascination he would have felt for the famous Atlantic Cable Expedition. What makes this story truly remarkable isn't just the logistical achievement, but what it represented for American development. This wasn't merely a mail delivery. It was proof that the American frontier could be conquered, that efficient communication could span the continent, and that private enterprise could accomplish what seemed impossible. Join my Patreon community and discover my art print products on my website in the links provided in my description and link above. Also, if you would like a particular image from my videos, give the timestamp for image, and I will upload it to my website and Patreon. Thank you for joining your desert frontiersman Alan for another Southwest story. Check out my large catalog of Southwest videos and playlists on historical tales, legends, lost gold stories, and adult bedtime stories. If you like a certain image from my videos, tell me in comments and give timestamp. Happy trails! Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more great content. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next video.